Will fertilizer give you a positive return on investment in 2010?
Well, there's no doubt about it. In 2009's crop, so the fall of 2008, fertilizer prices get ridiculously high, and it was tough to justify some of those things like potash for $900 a ton. I mean, that's just insane. That's at least 3 times more than what it's really worth, and it's definitely at least twice as much as what you could possibly afford to use in your field. So now prices have come down, and the question is now the time to load up and try and build up some fertility in my ground?
Okay, so here's a different way to look at fertilizer. Most people you're going to talk to, the supposed experts, are going to do some soil tests, and then they're going to tell you, well, your crop needs X amount of fertilizer. Here's the other way to look at the whole thing. For example, $30 an acre on phosphorus, and I've got corn that I can sell for $3 a bushel for easy figuring. It's going to take 10 extra bushels when I put that phosphorus out. Am I really going to gain that or not?
Absolutely.
Well,
I think for phosphorus, this year, it is a good year to buy. I think your return on investments, you got a pretty good shot of having a positive return on investment.
But here's the whole thing, and this is why you want to soil test and why you want to understand soil tests. If I've got very low phosphorus levels in my soil, then you know what? I probably will gain that 10 bushels pretty easy. If I've already got pretty high phosphorus levels, then it starts to get a lot more questionable.
Well,
and so
yeah, but you got to look at it the other way, Brian. If you say, all right, my soil test levels are fairly high, I mean, they aren't extraordinary, but I've got enough for this year's crop and maybe a little bit more, I look at it as phosphorus is really cheap. You know, on the grand scheme of things, you look at where the crop price is. If I can get $3 for my corn as an example, and 200 bushel corn, that's $600 an acre I'm going to get back. So what if I invest a little bit of money into the long-term health of my ground? I think it's a good time to invest, personally.
And this is one of the things that you can go back and forth on with your dad, your brother, anybody else in your farm operation. Are you going to invest for the future, or are you just going to look at the short term? About 10 or 12 years ago, Dad came to us and he said, guys, I've been putting all this phosphorus and potassium on for many years. I'm getting about ready to retire. I think it's time I start, what do you think he said? Mining it out of the soil. That's right. So Dad, for a few years, just quit applying P&K on his ground. And you know what? In the short term, it was a good decision for him because he made more money. But here's the problem. Over time, our yields started going down. Our test weights started going down. Grain quality, stalk quality, all those things started to deteriorate. So all of a sudden, this short term, I made a little more money thing, in the long term, really didn't look like that smart a move. And that's the whole reason why we're debating this thing a little bit, because over the last couple of years, you probably said, wow, P&K are really expensive. I got to cut back. Well, you know, in the short term, that was your decision. Now, you probably need to start making up for that lost ground that you had here over the last couple years. So I don't know if this is the year, if this is the cheapest time for P&K, but all we're saying is if you've been neglecting that P&K a little bit, it's probably time to start getting some out there. If not this year, coming up real soon.
Well, one other point that I'd make too is maybe you had fantastic yields this year and you say, man, where did all that yield come from? You know what? If you had a little bit of extra fertility out there for your crop to take advantage of, maybe it was a year where some more organic matter broke down on your soil. If you're seeing organic matter levels dive and you're not putting any extra fertilizer out there, those days are numbered on your farm. You're going to quit having those extra 20 or 40 bushel pops when you get great weather. So get some extra fertilizer out there when you can afford it and build that ground up for the long term.
Well, fertilizer and overall good fertility is really important to high yields. But you know what? So is weed control, especially if you've got our Weed of the Week. We'll tell you how to stop it on your farm coming up next.